UFC has become a global sensation with hundreds of millions tuning into the big events all around the world. MMA, or mixed martial arts, has become a huge phenomenon around the world, with many viral good and bad moments appearing throughout the years. UFC has become so popular, it's now considered a billion-dollar industry as it continues to increase in popularity. In today's video, we wanted to cover some UFC facts you may not know. But before we get into this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. UFC is a billion-dollar business. We gave this one away into the intro, but yes, you heard right. UFC has become a billion-dollar business, quickly taking the #1 spot for any fighting sport. Zuffa, the American sports agency, bought UFC for $2 million in 2014. This amount seems like a lot, but has quickly become nothing for the franchise that sold for $4.2 billion in 2016. Quite an investment if you ask me. Highest paid fighters. This may come as no surprise that Conor McGregor is at the top of the list of the all-time highest paid UFC fighters. McGregor has always been a great fighter but earned millions when he started in the UFC. The day of the infamous boxing match between he and defensive legend Floyd Mayweather, McGregor easily earned himself $75 million. UFC fighters must go through intense, rigorous training beforehand. This sport is not only for the faint of heart. Anyone who plans to become a UFC fighter has to be extremely prepared, both mentally and physically. It's crucial for them to improve their technical skills, lifting more and more weight, becoming as strong as possible, performing cardio exercises, all of this physical demand while also working on building strategies and preparing their minds for these fights. More than the weightlifting though, is the thousands upon thousands of hours it takes to learn the dynamic skills required to compete. Training camps can last up to 8 weeks, where the training schedules includes fighters taking on opponents for 7 hours per day who are twice their size. It's structured this way so that when they have real opponents, the fight can be that much easier. Many UFC legends decide to take up MMA as a form of self-defense against bullies. Believe it or not, but some of the strongest and greatest UFC fighters were once victims of bullying, deciding to learn MMA as a form of self-defense. They were sick of the torment and decided to learn some hand-to-hand combat, never imagining where they would be today. GSP is one of those greats who were bullied. Georges St. Pierre began as a multi-sport athlete, always excelling in sports in his native home of Quebec. However, when he wanted to defend himself from a bully at school, he began taking lessons from a Kyokushin karate master. As you can imagine, he instantly fell in love with MMA and began dabbling in wrestling, boxing, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He excelled in them all, coming out on top at MMA, and he went on to make a huge name for himself, as we're all very aware of. Similarly to Georges St. Pierre, UFC legend Conor McGregor took up boxing at the age of 12 to defend himself from a school bully. We bet that bully can't believe McGregor has become such an epic icon for MMA. MMA legend Bas Rutten is another incredible fighter who was once bullied at school, sparking his interest in MMA fighting. After watching Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon while on vacation, he instantly knew that he had to take up Taekwondo. At the time, he was only 14 years old. He had had enough of the bullying. One day, he confronted the bully, challenging him to a street fight. Rutten broke the bully's nose with one strong punch. The latest sale. Some rumors have been swirling around that Zuffa, Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta's company, may be selling the UFC. Reportedly, bidders have already begun to line up with over $4 billion offers, and as we mentioned earlier, White and the Fertittas bought the UFC franchise for only $2 million, very low in comparison. Silver Lake Partners, WME, IMG, Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, and MSD Capital all came together to complete the $4 billion sale. This is the most expensive transaction for any organization in all of sports history. UFC based itself on the WWE business model. Although it's highly contested by MMA fans across the world, UFC uses WWE as a business model in order to become successful and make money. Reporters state that the only thing that is different from the two fighting sports is that the UFC is real and WWE is often scripted, but there are plenty of similarities. Personal feuds are common and often sell a lot of fights. The weekly shows and pay-per-view format are also similarities we get from WWE. There are consequences if a UFC fighter refuses to fight. Sometimes fighters don't want to fight each other, but in this case, there are consequences enforced by UFC. According to theclever.com, in 2017 on June 19th, Germaine de Randamie was stripped of her featherweight belt because she refused to fight Cyborg. de Randamie apparently wanted more time to rest and heal after a previous injury. However, she recently admitted that she believes she was undeserving of the featherweight belt due to her injury, due to her recent history with substance addiction and abuse. There are plenty of "I am too injured to fight" excuses. It's common knowledge that the UFC is a brutal, intense sport, with injuries being all too common. UFC is intense and rough compared to its counterparts. Reporters have said that the UFC has witnessed a large increase in fighters who are charging or canceling their fights. Playing the "I have an injury" card has become much easier than fighting, probably due to how rough a sport UFC is, so fighters will do this often. UFC 1. The UFC co-founder Rorion Grayson once revealed in an interview that he and his partners had once considered the idea of having sharks and alligators surrounding the cage for the first ever UFC fight. The reason they wanted to do something so elaborate was to capture the attention and land on as many headlines as possible. Hollywood was where they resided, and they wanted to explore all the different possibilities. Not only were they thinking of having live dangerous animals on the outside of the ring, they even discussed an electric fence. These ideas were soon dropped as they were deemed not safe. Celebrities that have a stake in the UFC. When IMG took over UFC, this was a huge moment and milestone for MMA and the fighting community in general. Once the company was bought for $4 million, it gained international recognition, with many taking interest once they saw the rising popularity of the sport. For a comparison, Disney purchased the Star Wars franchise for almost the same amount. It has even brought in major celebrities like tennis star Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova, and Hollywood actor Mark Wahlberg. Popular TV host Jimmy Kimmel, along with singer and DJ Calvin Harris, are just a few of the other large names that hold a stake in the UFC franchise. The Octagon and Chuck Norris. Everyone knows and loves the Octagon. It has become a staple in the UFC franchise. It all began in 1993 when video and film art director Jason Cusson coined the concept. He had been brought on board by the UFC to design a breathtaking yet suitable fighting surface. You can say that it was a huge hit and is still being used today. When asked about his design in interviews, he revealed that a Chuck Norris movie from the 1980s had inspired him. The movie was titled The Octagon, oddly enough, and featured Chuck Norris, who played a retired karate champion who trained and became a ninja whose mission was to take down terrorists. The success of the fighter largely depends on their personality/persona. When you become a UFC fighter, you need not only to be good in the ring, but you also need to be good at trash talking and making a show. UFC tends to favor fighters who may be less skilled or unskilled if they have a strong personality and persona when in the ring. Oftentimes, skilled fighters are overlooked as they may not be the most captivating personality. For example, take Chael Sonnen and Chris Weidman. Chael has received way more title shots simply because of his trash-talking skills and persona. Chris, on the other hand, is extremely skilled, but constantly has to beg for his title shots. Talk about unfairness. Injuries can lead to the loss of millions. It is unbelievably expensive when a fighter gets injured or, even worse, refuses to fight. This is because it can interfere with the matchmakers and end up losing the company millions in revenue. And when it comes to the UFC, there are always injuries and fighters refusing to participate. Since the UFC is such a rough sport where the players are practically prone to get injured, it's no wonder this happens on a regular. Anderson Silva, a UFC legend, holds the current record for the most knockouts inside of the Octagon. This may come as a surprise, as many would first think of maybe Chuck Liddell or Francis Ngannou or someone along those lines when it comes to the most knockouts, but impressively, Liddell only has 13 while Silva has an astounding 22, almost double. And there you have it, some fun and not so fun facts that you may have known about the UFC. The Ultimate Fighting Championship will no doubt continue to engross many fans from across the globe, with more and more talent hitting the Octagon every year. Even though the world has been hit by the global health situation, it seems as though UFC fights are still happening, with the necessary safety precautions, of course. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did enjoy it, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new content. We'll catch you on the next one.